So the nature of warfare has changed. What you just saw in the video is only a sampling of what today's battle space looks like and what the future will hold. Our future leaders, they're the students that are in this room and across campus, will see a battlefield that we are only imagining. However, current students here, the other senior military colleges and the military academies, will lead personnel, manage equipment and machines to deter others and win battles that were fought on a myriad of fronts. The world in battle space is not imaginary, but will be very real. My name is Travis Morris, and I have the honor and privilege of being the director for the Peace and War Center and the executive director for the Military Writer Symposium. So the Military Writer Symposium is the only event of its kind in the United States. We are tasked to advance our understanding of the security challenges around the globe for the 21st century. Our charge and mandate is to select themes that are relevant to our current and future leaders, whether they are military or serving as civilians. We've been doing this for 28 years, and we have addressed some of the globe's leading security issues and have brought some of the best minds on campus to advance our understanding of these challenges. So over the next 2 days, we have an excellent program for you. I would like to encourage you to attend as many sessions as you can. Students, ask questions, and we have some incredible guests that are here on our campus today. Interact with them, shake their hand, ask them to sign their books. One objective for the symposium is this, that after you have attended the sessions and you've engaged with our esteemed guests, we want you, faculty, students, and staff, to advance your understanding of artificial intelligence and robotics, and to understand what that means now and what that means for the future. So in order to accomplish that, it's a team effort. Every year we partner with scholars and experts, and we invite them to campus to share with us their expertise. So this year we can better understand the nexus between artificial intelligence and robotics. And to our guests that are here, we thank you in advance. The Military Writer Symposium and the Kobe Award would not be possible without the support of the university leadership and the Pritzker Military Museum and Library in Chicago. A heartfelt thanks to President Anarumo, sir, for your support. The Dean and Provost, Dr. Karen Gaines, thank you, ma'am. The Associate Provost for Research and Chief Research Officer, Dr. Tara Kulkarni. The Military Writers Associates, and in-use development team for their continued support. So President Anarumo recently published a 2022 presidential position paper to serve as a mechanism to share his vision for Norwich. The title of that document reads, Proud Heritage, Infinite Future. The 2022 Symposium theme, Robots Rising, Arming Artificial Intelligence, along with the Leahy School of Cybersecurity and Advanced Computing, are directly tied to our infinite future. If I may, a quote from the paper. I quote, whether using artificial intelligence to create more effective policing strategies, data analytics to build more resilient businesses, machine learning for more affordable medical devices, or quantum computing to protect our cyber networks and national infrastructure, the world will know that a Norwich graduate is ready for the future economy. Now, end quote. Preparing leaders for the future has been our business for over 200 years. It's what we do. It's what we always will do. So now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce President Dr. Mark Anarumo, Norwich University's 24th president, to render his remarks. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Travis, very much. And everyone, I want to take a moment to really acknowledge and celebrate Dr. Travis Morris, whose real first name is William, and his incredible work. You know, the work on next year's Military Writer Symposium starts the day that the current one ends, and he started working on this last October. Truly extraordinary job, Travis, and very, very well done. Am I too close or too far to this thing? I'm getting feedback. I think I have too much bling. I have to modify my uniform. And I also want to acknowledge Megan Liptak. She's leaning against the wall. She does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work to make sure this conference goes off without a hitch. We're incredibly fortunate to have her in the seat. I want everyone to notice and recognize, I'm not sure if you can see her in the virtual audience, but she's wearing a dress that has emblazoned on it the image of a robot rising. And if you talk about commitment to the craft, well done, Ms. Liptak. But the two of them have worked incredibly hard behind the scenes. And of course, our facilities crew, our AV crew, all have done such extraordinary, great work to bring this symposium to life. So, welcome all of you. It's our 27th Military Writers Symposium. That's extraordinary. This is the only one of its kind in the United States, and we're extremely proud of that. And we want to welcome those in person, of course, but also those in the virtual environment, which I'm sure is numbering in the hundreds already from around the world. So we always offer this event to explore critical and timely topics to make sure we're future relevant. That is one of our cornerstones as an institution. There are many great symposia across higher education in the United States and the world. They cover wonderful topics that are meaningful and very important to the human condition and human society. But what makes us so extraordinarily unique is that we're always focusing this symposium on what is emerging as a critical topic that we must face as a larger and fully collaborative community of learning. Because things are changing. We just saw the video about warfare. Everyone, I was in Washington, D.C. all week. I got in very late last night, and I was at the Association of the U.S. Army, the AUSA conference, and where they had miles of indoor convention space displaying the future of warfare, and it is heavily reliant on artificial intelligence and the emerging fields that are related to AI. And it is extraordinary, not what's coming anymore, but what's already here, and how quickly this will continue to change, because things are changing very, very quickly. And it's not just the rate of change, but it's the complexity of that change that is becoming so problematic for us to understand. So it's critical that Norwich be at the forefront of all this, not just to understand it, but to lead in the affiliated areas. And right here on campus, upstairs, we now have the Senator Patrick Leahy School. And in that school, our students are tackling critical topics, while undergraduate students really, at some of them, at a PhD level. And it is truly extraordinary what our students are doing with the guidance of our incredible faculty. Some of the research are, cutting edge and future focused for sure. For example, forensics analysis of secondhand embedded systems, assessing suitability and security of voting software, testing the efficacy of brain-computer interaction devices, or BCI, and the application of next-gen gaming systems to support future law enforcement investigations. And through these efforts, we're demonstrating as an institution our commitment to graduating leaders who can compete and win in all future environments. And that's been part of our organization, our institutional identity since our founding in 1819. Our graduates literally built the first railroads. They tamed the frontier. They mastered the world's oceans. And they, of course, led with distinction both in and out of uniform over the course of 203 years. We haven't just been excellent, we have been leaders in all fields. But we must not be complacent. And the theme of this wonderful symposium and its continuation shows that we are not complacent. We must always look to the horizon. We have to look to the horizon both in our physical world, but also in the virtual world and the virtual domains that are becoming just as challenging and just as threatening as the real one. Among the fields we'll ensure that Norwich plays a key role are the areas that we'll cover over the next few days. And that includes artificial intelligence, but it also includes emerging areas like quantum computing that I keep talking about every chance I get, because I do consider quantum computing to be the next great leap in human evolution. And I believe that quantum computing will be just as important, if not more so, than the advent of nuclear weapons in the last century. In these areas, Norwich will again be a leader, and we have the foundation established to move into these new fields seamlessly. I'm looking in the audience at our esteemed cyber faculty. Our cyber programs are now entering their 25th year. We're nationally ranked in digital forensics and cybersecurity. We have innovated, and we've also helped pave the way for many other schools to set up cyber programs. We'll continue to be great, but we're going to continue to collaborate to ensure we share all of that greatness with others. Because doing it just here on our campus in Vermont does not help the human condition. We have to share our excellence, and we have, and we will continue to do so. And our students and researchers that are here in Central Vermont, they are at the center of a perfect storm of extraordinary opportunities. We have the Leahy School here now. We have our Cypher Research Center, the Norwich University Applied Research Institutes, or NUARI, and the Senior Military College Cyber Institutes, which is a fully collaborative effort that we lead with 5 other institutions. Our online bachelor's and graduate programs are bringing Norwich cybersecurity education excellence across the world, and we're now in the process of making our online programs more accessible and completely affordable to a limitless range of potential students. So we will collaborate and grow with those who wish to leverage our excellence in partnership. And all of you, by being here with us, either in person or virtually, are now our partners in collaboration. We're here together to explore some of the most important topics of our age. Robotics, artificial intelligence, and cyber have advanced at an unprecedented rate over the last 10 years. AI systems and robotics are now woven into all sectors of society, including infrastructure, business, security, and of course, defense. People across the world engage online and carry internet-enabled monitoring devices literally 24/7. And we continue to trend away from good security practices for the sake of convenience, and in some cases, for the simple case of personal notoriety. The amount of data generated and shared in our era of portable media and hyperconnectivity is astounding, and it's approaching the word immeasurable. The potential for security disaster is also present on an individual, national, and global scale because of this connectivity. So through the symposium, we will address some of the critical issues that are emerging because of these threats together. We will answer questions like how to train citizen soldiers to lead in environments that do not yet even exist, how to combat against hacking of essential infrastructure, ways the deployment of AI robots will alter the future battlefield. And based on what I've seen over the last few days at that event I just attended, I'm telling all of you very clearly it's already here. And a critical question that fascinates me personally: will AI networks engage in direct combat with other AI networks? And I think the answer to that question is obvious. And the better question is likely, when will that first take place, and what new threats to humankind will emerge as a result? So our 2022 Norwich University Military Writers Symposium brings together leading experts that will help us think through these questions, and also think through the scenarios that are almost beyond our current comprehension, but they're ones that our graduates in their generation will face as soon as they walk off this campus. So I would like to now offer my personal welcome to the great thinkers and leaders who will help us through these topics over the next few days. And the first is Mr. John Abele, who's sitting in the front here, the retired founding chairman of Boston Scientific, and you'll hear from him next. His vision for more than 4 decades has seamlessly paired cutting-edge technology with less invasive medicine and care. And I'll tell you that I've had the privilege of working and speaking with John several times before this event. He is one of the deepest thinkers that I have ever met, and I'm so delighted to have you back on campus, sir. We also celebrate and welcome author August Cole, whose calling card is exploring the future of warfare through fiction, and whose significant expertise blurs the lines between reality and the future state. Dr. Lyle Goldstein, Director of Asia Engagement for Defense Priorities, and through him, we see where maritime security and nuclear security intersect with cyber. The 2022 William E. Colby Award winner, Wesley Morgan, a renowned journalist whose keen eye and investigative reporting represent the key role media plays in an informed society. Sharon Weinberger, National Security and Foreign Policy Editor of the Wall Street Journal and author of a deep dive into DARPA and its role as an Imagineer of war. And finally, fantasy and science fiction author Martha Wells, exploring writing and fiction, which is the DNA of this 27-year-old symposium. And finally, I'd like to offer a personal welcome to Ambassador Maron Rubin, the Israeli Consulate General from New England. Ambassador Rubin has been on campus many times, and we are always delighted to host him and his team. Welcome again, sir. So all our speakers and all of you participants, and we expect to have lively discussion and hear inputs from all in attendance. You're going to help us engage the president while developing our understanding of the future, and we are all so incredibly fortunate to have you here. We are Norwich, and if you haven't heard it yet, we are the National Leadership University. And in that capacity, we are proud to host each of you as members of our community of learning. Thank you all for being here. Please engage, and please have a wonderful symposium. Thank you.
Thank you, President Anarumo. So it is my distinct pleasure and honor to welcome Mr. John Abele, not only back to campus, but also just to share some remarks and his experience with 4 decades of working with artificial intelligence. As President Anarumo mentioned, he's a pioneer, and what makes that even more special is he's a Vermonter. He's a leader in the field of less invasive medicine, and so when we're talking about artificial intelligence, we can talk about Department of Defense, we can talk about cyber, but it's also incredibly important that we talk about the medical industry. And sir, you are here for that reason. For more than 4 decades, John has devoted himself to innovation in healthcare, business, and solving social problems, including the ethics of developing new technology, which is a conversation in of itself, AI, robotics, and ethics. He's retired founding chairman of Boston Scientific Corporation. So let me just pause there. If you don't know what Boston Scientific is, I would encourage you to Google that, because it has helped shape the globe, and you're looking at the gentleman that's been at the tip of that. He holds numerous patents and has published and lectured extensively on technical, social, economic, and political trends and issues affecting healthcare. His major interests of science include science literacy for children, education, and the process by which new technology is invented, developed, and deployed into society. One of his passions is to work with FIRST Robotics, which is an international program, works with high school kids to make them being science literate and understanding those dimensions in a way that's cool and fun, and that's a quote. Additionally, the development of the Cambridge Conference Center Institute, which is a conferencing institute whose mission is to research, develop, and teach improved methods for interactive conferencing, problem solving, and conflict resolution. It also involves strategic planning and new methods for learning, and generally to help groups become collectively intelligent. It's an incredibly important endeavor, and as you can see from my remarks, that John is also interested in reaching the younger generation and transforming them. John, again, sir, we are honored by your presence. Thank you for coming back to Norwich. Thank you for sharing your time in advance, sharing your comments and insights with us. So let's give him a round of applause.
Well, first of all, let me compliment you for having started this program years ago. It's quite relevant, I think. Studying history of how we got to where we are is very important to learn where you're going to go. Sometimes when we get into situations like we are now, it's very difficult. I don't have all the badges. I'm getting a little bit of a feedback. We've turned the dial down. First of all, I think the topic is just awfully relevant. The questions I looked at, and particularly on AI, are very difficult and in some ways unanswerable. We are going into an incredible field of the unknown, of what's going to happen. I am sort of weirdly unprepared to talk about it, but in fact, that's what is useful, I submit. Sometimes war is too important to leave to the generals. Sometimes you need outsiders to see through different windows these same problems. And in case of some of these questions here, medicine has been going through the same traumatic challenges, a lot of resistance to the use of AI in medicine. Robotics has gradually been increasing, but it's not produced the results that they thought. It has not increased the ability of to be able to do more patients less expensively, and this is what it has to do. Let's just go back in history for a second to this guy here. In 1953, he became the first secretary of the Communist Party, therefore the head of the Soviet Union. He was the second person after Stalin. Very, very interesting background to take over the leadership of the country in that context. And he did some amazing things. He is the person who was responsible for Sputnik, 1957 specifically. And remember, that scared the living daylights out of people in the West. And Russia was really showing that they could lead in this area. And in fact, we owe them a great thank you because it got us off our duff, if you will. And we spent a lot of effort doing work in that area. Khrushchev was kind of a weird guy. He would pound his shoe. He spoke at the UN and definitely attracted attention, if you will. That was part of his character. That is how he got people to notice him. That is how he was demonstrating his hatred and disappointment, if you will, on the Western systems. He was kind of the John McEnroe of leaders of the world, who sort of introduced the concept of being really obnoxious on a tennis court. But he's most famous for, in 1956, believe it or not, saying these words to a group of Western leaders, including NATO, who, after he said them, walked out of the audience. Obviously, what we thought on our side of the ocean was that he was going to use the hydrogen bomb, which, by the way, they had developed in 1952, 1953, and mostly from our plans, of course. But that's the way it was. Anyway, when you hear that, and then you follow what actually happened, what he said, and then what he said later, you realize he really wasn't saying this. He was saying that. You will bury you. The seeds for destruction of your system of living are built into it. Now, as it turns out, they're also built into socialism and communism and so forth. You have to work hard to avoid these things. But he was making a point that this is one of those situations where the enemy doesn't wear a uniform. The enemy, in fact, is working in your world. You can't tell them apart. The same thing was said by this man, Karl Marx. Again, it was back to the proletariat are going to take over, the seeds of destruction are so forth, are built into your system. Let me ask you a question that's relevant to what Khrushchev said. How many of you have seen the documentary called The Social Dilemma? Raise your hand if you have. Few of you have. It's a frightening movie. It was produced by an individual. It wasn't produced by the government. It was produced by an individual named Tristan Harris, and he had been a successful entrepreneur in the tech world. And the question is, what he asked down there, how do you end up changing the behavior of billions of people around the world with the technology? Well, we're watching it every day now. We are part of that. So the real problem of humanity, stated by E.O. Wilson. How many of you know who E.O. Wilson is? He died recently. He's the ant guy. He was a scientist at Harvard. But in studying ants, he was also understanding how human species and other species behave. And he points out that we have kind of a Paleolithic emotions, medieval thinking, and then we have this God-like technology. Well, does it make sense that the God-like technology can be managed responsibly by the people who Paleolithic and with medieval institutions? And I don't think that's changed since he said it. And we live in this bizarre attention economy. That's what they point out, that Tristan Harris in his movie talked about. And in this one, we're not the customer, we're actually the product. And this is something that I think people still don't get when they get addicted to whatever they're watching on a screen. And it gets better. It's higher resolution, better colors, good-looking things in it. It's all part of this attention economy, and then driving that wherever that attention would go and give whoever is doing it benefit. Getting your attention is the key, and you can get addicted to attention. In fact, we all are. As a number of psychiatrists have observed and neuroscientists, our brains have actually changed because of our exobrains that we carry with us. And in fact, now facade is more important than substance. And there are tools in these attention grabbers, if you will, that can feed to that, the Instagrams of the world. And that's just one of many, as you know. We have a family foundation called the Argosy Foundation. In that, we have a number of portfolios that we focus on. One of them is misinformation and the concerns we have, and this is driven, of course, by AI to a large extent, is what can we do to use the same tools that drove that attention towards a company or towards whatever they're trying to give you to, towards changing the culture of our society. Now, that's a big task, obviously, but hey, it's been done before. It tends to get done in a crisis, a huge disaster, a war, so forth. People pull together, now not perfectly, but more than they do now. In a way, our success in avoiding war has been a challenge because we have now become divided. Here are examples of some of the many, many books and work done on focusing on the implications of what this attention economy will do. This is an MIT, Sina Noral has a whole program at MIT working on that. The Chaos Machine, also a fascinating book, talking about the incredible implications in things that you don't know unless you sort of dig into it, what's going on. And then, of course, the implications for the military are phenomenal. Attention has been weaponized, no question about it, and both internally and externally. And sometimes the externals, our more formal enemies, if you will, are utilizing those internal changes to their benefit. Here's an interesting statistic. In 1991, the percentage of women with high depressive symptoms was 17%. And then you get to 2013, it was 21%, and 2017 it was 29%. Now that's just a little narrow pullout. You, if you're in the college world, are well aware of all students' problems with anxiety and depression, and it's way over what it has been historically. Is that something that we can understand why this is happening? Is this a self-induced disease? Is there something that we are doing politically that drives it? Certainly some people think so. In essence, we're rewarded for being divisive entrepreneurs. Something wrong with this system. And you have the classic true news, fake news issue. And of course, now, actually Mark Twain said the same thing, that good news is still putting on its shoes while fake news is traveling the world. So that's not a new thing. The same thing is this whole business of extreme views. And again, compared to moderate views, that's not what catches the attention. So media does not just talk about good things, or they don't talk about things in objective ways because that doesn't attract attention. So they become the creator of the problem, not just the reporter of the problem. So the implication here is we know each other less well. And what does that mean, and how do you proceed from it? We've become cognitively impenetrable. That's the challenge every school has, all politicians have, but more importantly, all we have as members and citizens of society. This is just a semi-random list of crises that we have to face today. By the way, the pandemic is not on there. Pestilence is not on there. And I can guarantee from the medical side of things, that is going to continue to be a problem in different ways going forward. But these are much more complex issues than we have been forced to deal with in the past. And as a result, our ability to make sense of complexity is way under what it needs to be in order to get a handle on these issues. And if you focus on only one, you realize frequently the solution to solving one creates a problem with the others. That's what complexity is all about. And so you have this runaway technology problem, is the first people into technology are the ones who end up controlling the view of it. Ask Elon, an example of it. And I think recognizing that, in fact, technology and its growth is accelerating. Why is it accelerating? Because the tools to create technology are hugely better than used to be. You can collaborate better, you can reach the right people faster, you can find out information better than leaders of countries could 25 years ago. That's the age of the web, by the way. And that makes an enormous difference. Tools for making things are much more powerful than they used to be. Tools for testing things are cheaper and more available. And there are more people making. As a result, you're going to get more technology. Now, there are some positive sides to what's been going on as well. How many of you know who this person is? Okay. Odd thing, she was a graduate of the first class of Olin College in Needham. If you know about Olin, Olin is a rather interesting school with a very different model of teaching. She was an employee, she'd been the root of all the high-tech companies. She was an employee at Facebook, and she was the whistleblower. And she didn't just blow the whistle, she got smart on knowing how to blow the whistle. She talked to people who helped her a lot. And as a result, she spoke before Congress, she spoke to the parliaments of most of the countries in Europe, and she made the point very, very well. She wasn't after Facebook. What Facebook does, there's a lot of good things that happen. She was after trying to remove the bad things. The problem is the bad things were the things that making the money for Facebook. So that's a challenge. But the point is, she sort of set the standard. And it's sort of interesting, not being a politician was an asset here, because she was basically a new and eloquent spokesman for this issue. And as an example, it's not only true with Facebook in terms of employees saying, I don't want to work there, or I don't want to work there anymore. And the same is true for Amazon and Google and Apple as well. And then another example of more attention to the attention economy was the 60 Minutes program back in 2017. And it was, in essence, a preview of that social dilemma documentary. But very, very well done, balanced. But Tim Cook said it best. We cannot allow a social dilemma to become a social catastrophe. And it's important for the leaders to be saying that. It was important for Eisenhower to say, beware of the military-industrial complex. And we have the medical-industrial complex, I know. These are things that we have to understand in order to be able to create the right balance to make our society work well. And the answers are not that complicated, but they are extraordinarily difficult to implement. Humane technology, stronger, more capable institutions. Why do people hate anything big? I don't know, I'm one of them. It's a problem, and the media has built that mindset. And it's all about culture. The culture in World War II was almost simplified in a way. And by the way, remember, it was very difficult for Roosevelt to get the army and the military to prepare for the war. The military wanted, but the legislature the public was against it. And so, very simply, the answers are here. Triage, transition, long-term. They're pretty basic. I won't even go into them, except you've got to figure out how to implement them. It has to happen particularly at the post-high school education level, but it also has to happen at the K-12 level. It's not just a matter of content knowledge. It's all about understanding social and emotional behavior and understanding that you have to learn how to learn. That is the key thing, because what we're going to be facing is stuff we don't know today. And so I'll leave you with this. Pogo, 1970, by the way, made this statement, we've met the enemy and he is us. And that was all about the climate disaster. But in fact, it's also important to the social dilemma disaster. And Norwich, your values are exactly what is needed to address this issue. You just got to spread them further and faster. Thanks.
Thank you, John. And we really appreciate just your comprehensive, broad level of expertise that you've been able to see over the past four decades. So thank you very much for your remarks. It is now my distinct pleasure and honor to welcome His Excellency Ambassador Maren Rubin, who is the Israeli Consulate of New England, back to Norwich to deliver our second keynote address. So our discussion about AI and robotics, it's not simply a US-centric discussion. This is a global conversation. You'll see that we have included in the program international voices into the symposium to reflect the global nature of this conversation. So when we're talking about internationalizing things, this also applies to AI. It applies to cyber. I would also like to thank the ambassador publicly for hosting a group of Norwich students, faculty, staff, back in Boston last spring for a day of excellent programming and an unparalleled hospitality at his own personal residence. That was very kind of you, sir. And everyone that went on that trip, it was one of their best Norwich experiences, and you can ask any of the students who were there. So we just wanted to thank you publicly for doing that for us. So again, thank you for your generosity, Ambassador, for being here and your continued partnership with Norwich University. So just a quick bio. He served as a Consulate General for Israel to New England since 2020, November. He has a diplomatic career that spans over 3 decades, which he has served in various positions, including the role at the Israeli embassies in Chile, Mexico, ambassador to Paraguay, Bolivia, and to Colombia. Ambassador Rubin served as Israeli ambassador to the United Nations 2010 through 2011, and Israel's chief of staff for protocol from 2015 to 2020. He was born in South Africa and immigrated to Israel from the UK in 1974, where he studied diplomacy and international relations at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. During his military service, Ambassador Rubin was an air traffic controller in the Israeli Air Force. So, sir, welcome back. The floor is yours. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Boker Tov in Hebrew. It really is an honor to be back here at Norwich University, and a greater one to speak to you this morning representing my small nation. Israel is an ancient country with a history going back millennia, but it is the modern rebirth of the biblical country nearly 75 years ago that has gripped the imagination of so many. We're a state that has had to fight daily for its survival, and by doing so, has had to come up with ingenious solutions, many of them based in technology, to keep us at least one step ahead of those who seek to make sure we do not succeed. Some 15 years ago, I had the privilege of visiting an Air Force base in my country and was shown and allowed to peek into hangar after hangar of what then seemed to me as a futuristic vision, something more akin to an experience of being in a cartoon about something extraplanetary. Drones of all sizes were parked one next to the other in what, for me, who did military service as an air traffic controller, as you heard, was something awe-inspiring. I grew up with the knowledge that the Air Force was made up of machines that had to be piloted by men, and here was the future, an unmanned task force to keep the country safe. I've been a diplomat for some 3.5 decades and have seen many changes in the world around me, but the other world experience has remained with me and will never leave me, showing how important technology is to our future and how dependent we have become on it. Over the years, Israel has become an international technological leader in both civilian and security fields. We have managed to gain a significant foothold in artificial intelligence, thanks to the growth of startups in Israel and international companies, many of them American, that have established development centers in this cul-de-sac of the Mediterranean. A large part of our security is based on solutions that have embedded AI into their systems, which has strengthened our capacity. Israel has unique characteristics that have helped create an ever-strengthening ecosystem by mixing different fields that have brought about interesting interactions between various elements in our society. We're often referred to as the startup nation because of the large number of startup companies in comparison to the size of our population. We are the size of New Jersey with a population practically like New Jersey, and yet we seem to bat above our size and our weight. Maybe that's because I'm putting on too much here. In the 1990s, technologies and capabilities in the fields of communication that the security establishment developed in cooperation with the academic sector enabled Israel to take advantage of the developing internet. In fact, Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs was the first ministry in the world to go online some 25 years ago. The major companies at the time, like Checkpoint, Amdocs, and NICE, established Israel as a leading power in the fields of communication, security, data storage, and semiconductors. Our entrepreneurial culture has also led to the growth of innovative companies which have contributed greatly to the country's successful technological ecosystem. We have a tendency to work differently from other countries. Not everything seems planned, and to tell you the truth, it's not. We shoot from the hip, and we look for solutions while continuing to use technology. We seem to have understood this from our very inception, that we must compensate for our lack of natural resources and limited human resources compared to our adversaries who are superior to us in population and size by investing in human resources and technology. This was the strategy of our first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, who felt it imperative that this be the basis of our national security strategy. He was also instrumental in making sure that Israel's National Security College be a mix of army and civilians, so that there would be a kind of cross-pollination, if you will, of ideas and contacts that would help build a different structure for the country. Lately, and that's a change from what we used to be, we've had the luck of finding large natural gas reserves in the Eastern Mediterranean, so we can no longer claim to be totally without natural resources. Security exports have increased and transformed us into one of the world's largest weapon exporters, while the security industries have turned us, despite our size, into a technological and economic power. The competitive advantage of Israel's security industry and the international market has also resulted from its close relationship with the Israel Defense Forces. New systems are tested out in the field practically as they are being developed, and our industry relies on security units to advance the research, development, and implementation process. There is a constant transfer of human resources between the Israel Defense Forces and the security industries, partly the result of mandatory military service model and military reserve duty. This, of course, also influences the transfer of knowledge and strengthens Israel's technological strength. I'm very interested to say that on Veterans Day in the United States, I was surprised to see that only 1% of America's population are veterans, whereas in Israel's population, this number hovers around 70%. So there is that big dichotomy between the two societies, if one tries to compare them. And of course, as a result of this, the Israeli ecosystem is unique and differs from that of many other countries. This different ecosystem, comprised of security bodies, academia, and industry, operates cooperatively, sharing ideas and human capital. Israeli academia enables research that contributes to the development of AI and forms the basis of different AI systems. Leading industries and the giant technological companies that have also established research centers working alongside innovative startups, and this sector has also witnessed significant increase in the field of artificial intelligence, with some companies developing the core technology of AI and others developing supported technologies such as autonomous vehicles and cybersecurity. The security bodies and the military also have undergone impressive development, especially for the purpose of military intelligence, so that we can cope with a wide range of sources of information and for operational activities. In addition to processing data and reaching conclusions, various autonomous systems such as gliders, robots, sensors, and vehicles are also being developed and used. In Israel, as mentioned, the connection between academia and civil commercial industry and the security bodies occur quickly at an organizational, social, and professional level due to Israel's advantage of being a small country. the short physical distance between the substantial concentration of technological companies and Israel's government or security centers also helps strengthen this cooperation. This is quite different from the situation in the United States, where the geographical distances and the time differences are considerable. The direct link between senior and high-ranking personnel in many places, including in certain military units, and an open and entrepreneurial character of Israeli culture in comparison to countries where there is a more hierarchical and bureaucratic style, help move ideas and gain achievements. In the field of AI, Israel does not seem to have any special advantages in areas such as big data or hardware. It's our ecosystem that gives us a relative advantage. At the same time, however, Israel's size and its limited resources also create challenges. So it is important to combine the different relative advantages to create force multipliers. One of our fortes in integrating AI into the battlefield has been in the development of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. In the 1960s and 70s, we were already using drones for photographic purposes, and in the 80s began to use them for deception and information gathering. About 20 years ago, UAVs were mainly used for military intelligence gathering in asymmetric conflicts. What we call the Second Lebanon War that took place in 2006 was a turning point. It was the first war in history in which more unmanned flight hours were carried out than flight hours of manned jet fighters. Actually, the last time Israel participated in a conventional war between state actors was 50 years ago in 1973. Since then, we have increasingly had to fight non-state actors in unconventional and asymmetric warfare. So we have had to learn to battle combatants who hide behind civilians and make conventional warfare outdated. So the necessity for IA became imperative because of the need to collate and interpret so much information in real time. Due to problems along our borders, we have also become one of the leading countries in developing, producing, and using other unmanned systems, some of which enjoy a level of autonomy. These include unmanned patrol vehicles, ground robotic systems, and loitering munitions. A survey of companies in the field of IA, data science, and intelligent robotics found that cybersecurity and cyber warfare is considered the main technology in which Israel has the capacity to lead. Military technology units, such as the Unit 8200 of the IDF intelligence, recruit talented high school graduates for military service, where they receive significant training and experience. As a result of the military service that grants professional experience, the graduates of this unit are able to cope with complex issues faster and more efficiently than university graduates or young entrepreneurs who were not part of these military units and who lack practical experience. Israel has another relative advantage in the autonomous automotive industry. Israel's strength is in development and implementation of complementary technologies for autonomous systems, including sensors and navigation systems. Development in the field of AI and Israel's ability to improve its achievements so as to preserve its competitive advantage directly influence many technological fields dealt with in the country. I couldn't end without mentioning one of the most impressive defense systems that is known worldwide, and that is, of course, the Iron Dome, that has been shown time and again able to protect Israeli citizens from incoming missiles. We would not have had the system had it not been for the continuous cooperation and support of the United States, and for that we are forever grateful. This collaboration between our two countries continues in many fields, as well as AI, and we look forward to many years of continued mutual beneficial work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. again, we certainly appreciate your comments and your time of joining us here at Norwich University. So students in the room, if you are interested in speaking with the ambassador and John, they will be here this morning, and if they said something of interest, they're here at your disposal to engage with them and ask questions. So just a few concluding remarks before we begin our next session here at 10 o'clock. So there's a program that's available. You're here for just a couple of programs this morning, but this event is 2 days long, so look at the program, and we have as I said earlier today, we have a myriad of sessions. Attend as many as you can. Our guests are amazing, and they're well known globally. You can purchase their books in the bookstore, and you can also ask them to autograph it for you. And then also, just quickly, tonight at 1900, 7 p.m. in Plumley, we're going to have a panel, and I would encourage you to attend that this evening, as we'll have a panel with a moderator that will be highlighting some of the events and issues that we're talking about this morning, but in a very different format, and you'll have an opportunity to engage and ask questions. So for the rest of the sessions, students, if you have questions, we're going to have microphones on the left and right. Make sure that you engage our authors, and let's give our keynotes a round of applause. Thank you.